What do you think about those costs?
So I think there's a whole industry that is so intent on and so profit driven that the real obstacle is you cannot get funding for research that shows helping somebody in a peer-supported home environment is not only in the end more cost effective, but more productive, because it is not, you can't make profit off of it. And until you see an ability to make profit on it, no one's going to touch it. And everything is controlled by those who have the degrees, you know what I mean, and the numbers next to their name, and they are very invested in the amount that they have spent on that status. And I see that as the biggest problem.
And that's huge. And that's when I sat there and I read about, like, hey, you guys have had, since 490 BC to figure out, I read through their, it's the person, there's something wrong with them, they're ill, and they just keep blaming the person, but nobody ever sits back and says, well, we're not living as humans were designed to. This is the problem.
Yeah.
Right? You don't see the animals, the deers, the bald eagles, you don't see them battling for territory in the natural environment. We live, we thrive, we all get along, right? And that's in perfect harmony. I look outside here, millions of years, nothing's changed.
My wife has been watching a series through Knowledge Network, I think it is, on island life. So it's these people who live in isolated island communities, and there's no crime. They all produce their own food,
yes.
Right? If they have extra, they put it out for sale, and it's a little envelope. It's honor system. Someone puts money in. They don't have the money. They write them a note and say, I didn't have enough. I'll give it to you later. You know what I mean? Right. Yes. And the community is so close. They focused on the arts. It's all about arts and music. This is just such a peaceful environment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there's no mental illness.
Right.
There's no drugstores.
Or disease or troubles or sickness, because when you're not depressed, when you're not anxious, you're not overly stressed.
You don't have processed food. You don't process food.
Doritos and
chemical
cakes. That's right. For sure.
Yeah,
well, that's the struggle with today's human. We look at ourselves and the evolution of mankind and how we're eventually here, whether it be 10 years, 50 years, going to become a multiple spacefaring civilization. In order to get there, we have to take away the human mind and become more artificially intelligent. And this is where we start getting into the troubles, I feel, Stefan, is when we look at, the humans, we have 3 parts to our brain. Are you aware?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm only learning. I got a grade 8. I got a great 8.
I have a medical background. I was a medic in the military for a couple decades there. So yeah.
Well, I've got a grade 8 education. These are the things that I'm just kind of learning as I immerse myself and sit here in the mountains, in the forest for the last 4 years, watching and learning why, how the animals survive and how they interact with each other and how they're doing things. Well, they're living instinctually. Could you imagine a deer walking down the road with a microwave under his arm, a cell phone on one side, and a list full of bills that he's got to pay, going to do some bullshit something in order to come back and feed the other deer at home? It just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So when I sit there and learn, well, what is wrong with the human? We should be farther advanced. Well, we've bred out our animal instincts. It's so easy to go to the grocery store and get a steak and some Doritos, and we always just want. Give me some. Fix me now. And that's not.
I'm not so sure that the right term is that we bred it out. I think we're inherently lazy in that we want the instant cure. We want the one pill does all solution to everything. You know what I mean? So if my phone isn't my bank and my entertainment system, as well as my communication system and my research system, and everything. It has to be all in one, right? But we also expect the same thing for our solutions. So we don't want to have to change our habits. The reality is, the North American diet is toxic. Right?
Yes.
We should not be eating any of the starches, the sugars, or the processed food that we are eating. We should be eating a healthy quantity of natural balanced fats. We should be eating our protein. We should be eating our fresh vegetables. But instead, we have tons of groups with agendas. Well, the science is if you do this diet, if you do that, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because we need that one easy solution, and we will sell our souls to get that one easy solution. And all it does is lead to more problems. The reality is, like anything, it requires work. You put your time into your day. From the time you get up to the time you go to sleep, you work your magic by interaction, through processing your own food, by doing these things. And yes, that means you can't live a busy lifestyle going out to the restaurants, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It means you have to change. No, I want the pill so I can keep my lifestyle.
That's what we think, but the pill is altering the mind. It's the mind-altering substance. Take a look before Whitey got to Canada. Look at the Indigenous people. Look at the people, how they Canadians, the real, the native people, they thrived, lived, survived just fine off the land without a dollar. It was trade, it was community, it was supporting each other. They had their ceremony, dance, drumming, art. The men would go hunting. I'll go back and say, and counter you respectfully, sir, on the breeding out of the instinctual part, because if you took anybody from this of any of the city slickers, not soldiers, that's not fair. You guys have that in you. That's not fair. We got to talk about cities.
And there's my point, right? I'm not so sure that it's what's been bred out of us. That's why I say that. I guess I'm just challenging you on the term. It's not the belief, the overall belief. You're right. We've lost it, but I'm not so sure it's been bred out of us completely, because I didn't have that bred into me growing up. Right? I got into the military, and that became part of my lifestyle because I needed it to survive. This goes back to your earlier comments, right? What do you got to do to survive? In a military environment, you are one part of a moving machine, and you count on everyone for your life. A guy that I always trained with, literally, every course I was on, the guy was my bedmate, you know what I mean? And I don't mean the same bed, but he was in the bunk next to me. And, him and I were always at each other's throats because, I don't know if we're too much alike or we're just both competitive, but we never really liked each other, you know what I mean? God, if you ever messed with me, you had to deal with him. You know what I mean? Likewise, don't ever mess with him because you're going to deal with me. I don't care if we don't like each other. You know what I mean? We were team. You know what I mean? Half the time we were fire team partners. It's not about whether or not you like each other, right? You do what you have to do to survive, and that's what the training in the military does. And because of that, I believe that is reinstated a lot into military or ex-military people. But I don't believe. I guess you could say in one respect breeding. I'm just not sure that it's the right term. I think it's more of a conscious choice to me, I think.
Well, if you take a look at, which I understand, I love the conversation. If you take a look at humans, we were designed to survive. We weren't trained to survive. You look at the cavemen, you look at the evolution of way back in the days, thousands of years ago, whether you were a soldier or whether just a villager, you're designed to survive, and you can do it instinctually. That's dangerous. In order to live to the end of the day, you better hunt, eat, reproduce, keep your genes going. Instinctually, we're not taught that, right?
But so, go into your first responders. It's the exact same process, right? Because you enter a burning building with another man or another woman, you are relying on them for your life.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. But you can talk and train your human to do things like a robot, but you're not going to change the fact that you're our nervous system will never change. It is what it is. It's meant to survive, period. And upon no matter what, like when I was gangbanging for 15 years, instinctually, these things were bad. But every single day, your hands are up in defense mode. You don't have time to sit around and go, oh man, I had a nightmare from watching so-and-so get decapitated, whatever it might have been. It's constantly in fight or flight. And I feel what I was challenged most with is when I came and started into civilization, got a normal job as a firefighter, it was like this. I put my hands up. Well, I relied on the system. I relied on my brother. I relied on the fire truck and the government to help me if I fell. I'm paying tax now. I'm a good guy. Hey, I've endured this in my life. And that was my number one problem, because there was nothing to train myself with the emotional part of doing what was not designed to do.
Your brain had been programmed for so long by those steroid releases that you only had one response. Yeah. Totally get that.
And then you come in back into civilization and you're like, oh, hey, I pay tax now. Everything is good. There's a fire. I'm going for it. But you're going into it just because you've got a helmet, bunker gear, and a hose. Your hands have been at your damn sides and you're just going to take the damn licks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Be nice if we were educated properly, though.